August the 20th, 2020. Guys, you're looking at the update that came in just a few moments ago, 10:56 a.m. Eastern Time. We got two tropical depressions, number 14 that's in the Caribbean and 13 that's in the Atlantic. This is the 2-day forecast, but both of these now will be tracked differently. There will be more emphasis put on this, and that's important. And I want to say one thing, although 13 is larger, we look at the satellite images. It's throwing out a lot of outer bands, and it's protecting itself somewhat, or it's protecting the center core from some Saharan dust by throwing out wider bands, but the core is still strong. It's moving 30 knots or 35 miles per hour. It's moving northwestward at 21 miles an hour, still fast clip. The sustained winds are 35 miles an hour. 14, same thing, 35 mile per hour sustained winds. It's moving west at 21 miles an hour also. They're both predicted to slow down, especially getting closer to the Caribbean area. Again, let's look at the modeling on this, and I just want to point out something with the 5-day forecast. And what you're seeing here is your rear storm still has a 40% chance. It's now disturbance number 2 since these are 14 and 13. And guys, over for our friends in Mexico, in the Eastern Pacific, let me pull this down. You have Genevieve, that's a Category 1 hurricane, and a possible disturbance here, just south of there. And it's that time of the year, but they're lining up across the International Convergence Zone, just north of the equator now. But Genevieve is 75 miles an hour. Sustained winds, its movement is northwest at 10 knots, 12 miles an hour. That's going to keep it skirting along the coastline here, guys. Sometimes these storms will move and curve out and head towards Hawaii. We'll keep an eye on it, but you also have a second storm. Now, this is the newest tracking model. We were just getting spaghetti models basically until they named it tropical depression. And so it's showing it forming in the next update probably a tropical storm and making this northwest turn and coming in to the Houston area. That's the center of this cone. We know that can change. But anywhere inside the white area, even on up into the Gulf there, where it's dotted white, that's where the center is predicted to be, somewhere between that point. And the very center lines is how the National Hurricane takes all the spaghetti models and averages them out. But here you've got, this is again the 11 a.m. Eastern Time update. Here's our position. Next update, tropical storm, 8 a.m. Friday morning. Here you've got tropical storm watches out along the coast of Honduras. Tropical storm, 8 p.m. Saturday. Now, if it travels across the Yucatan, that's going to slow the storm down and weaken it somewhat. Then you're looking at 8 a.m. Sunday. It's starting to leave the Yucatan and re-enter the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, setting off the coast somewhere along the Texas-Louisiana border Tuesday morning. So you prepare over this weekend, get everything done. Remember, you got to get some spring bottled water. Get that, because those type items, gas, plywood, are going to go very quickly. So take the time now to get in that frame of mind. Now, this is the newest update on our Tropical Depression 13. It's still out further in the Atlantic. And I knew they were going to change this, looking at the size of the storm, but until the 11 a.m. update, guys, it had not predicted to become a hurricane. But I knew that once it got into the waters here north of Cuba, especially with it tracking north of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, to where the mountains on the islands do a lot of damage to a storm, it slows it down to rip some of the winds apart. If it tracks north like that, it's not going to have that impediment. Now, again, we're going to look at satellite images, and it's kind of wrapped up in the Saharan sand layer. But by 8 a.m. Monday, this thing's setting off the large Bahama Island as a hurricane. We don't know how strong it's going to get, But 8 a.m. Tuesday, it's possibly already crossed the Florida, southern tip of Florida, along the out into the Keys, and 8 a.m. Tuesday, somewhere into the Gulf of Mexico, off of central Florida. So again, now is the time to start preparing. Now let's back out and watch the sunrise this morning. You can see all the storms we're talking about off the coast of Mexico, right there, guys. You're talking about up into Baja area. This storm, depression number 14, right there. Again, we cannot underestimate this storm yet. Behind it, here's tropical depression 13. And what's happening, guys, and we'll look at it a little closer. I just wanted to kind of do a wide scan, is that, again, there's a battle with some Saharan sand wrapping this. Then the second storm is right here, kind of down into the bottom right corner. These blue clouds indicate the higher tops, and your whiter colors are your surface level clouds. You've got moisture already pumping into the Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida coastline now. And actually, this tailed off last night. Check this out. From Guinevere, this Cat 1 hurricane, which again as the sun rises. Here's Genevieve, and this tail are feeding into a moisture band. And it was late yesterday afternoon, if you'll pay attention to it, that it was really feeding then. So now we're seeing this Pacific moisture pulling in. So it's going to have some moisture effects on the ground level. That always affects the damage to some of your larger trees. If the ground's really saturated and you've got a full big oak tree or something like that, it's a huge umbrella or a huge sail in the wind at that point. And so just be careful of that. We're already getting this pull. Again, this is why I want to do the wide view. Notice where the moisture is going and where the storms are predicted to go. So we'll keep an eye on it, guys. I want to look at some of the other modeling. First, I want to look at this particular satellite image over the Atlantic from NOAA. And you can see a little better the second storm number, it's actually tropical depression number 13. And the outer bands are battling the Saharan sand. It's a natural event. Both have happened forever. And the Earth is needing to cool itself, so it's protecting the core of this storm. But it's sacrificing some of the size of it. But again, it was all planned like that. Remember, it merged with another low pressure cycle. Mother Nature, God's creation, knows how to heal itself, especially when it's left alone. Well, we don't need carbon tax to do that. Now, Fox Hurricane has updated this also at 11 a.m. on the spaghetti models, and you can see where they get the curve that we were looking at on the National Hurricane Center's tracking map. And more of the models now are centering right into Houston. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that come into the Gulf and through a couple of different paths make their way right into Houston. Now, this is not predicted yet to become a hurricane. It's still listed as a tropical storm. We'll watch that and see. Now, the Canadian model is not listed here, or the Navy model. The Navy model is on the map, but it actually stops right down here in this purple. And they just haven't updated theirs for this report yet. But the averaging is pretty much what we're seeing from National Hurricane Center. My friends in this area, keep your heads up. Now, this is the update for our larger storm, or the other storm that's out into the Atlantic, Tropical Depression 13. And you do have the Navy model and the CMC model, and both are bringing the storm across Florida, somewhere between Miami and north of there, crossing in central Florida. Navy model has it going straight up into Georgia from there, staying on land. That will weaken the storm. And the Canadian model has it briefly dipping back into the Gulf of Mexico north of Tampa. These are going to change. They will fluctuate back and forth. But Florida, it looks like South Florida is going to take the first lick on this thing. Once they, and many storms have done this, by the way, once they cross Florida this time of the year, if they get it back into the open Gulf, they can become very dangerous very quickly. Now, the timing again on these storms, we're looking at 26 into the up northern Gulf, but before that, around the 24th and stuff, guys, in the South Florida area, you really need to be paying attention to it. We'll look at a couple of the animated models. Now, this is the Canadian model, or the CMC model. What we're looking at, again, across southern Florida, and it's coming ashore about the same time that the storm that's in the Caribbean now comes ashore somewhere, according to the Canadian model, which is not played out on the National Hurricane Center tracking yet. Notice where it's got it coming in down into Mexico. Second storm, again, much more powerful as of this time. It's still got a long way to go, and it doesn't look like a lot of islands are in the way to inhibit the process. Now, looking at the timestamp on this, let it come back around. Notice it comes back out over Virginia in this area, but we'll stop it on certain time points. Here, we're on the 24th. Back that up one, and still on the 24th, this thing's getting ready to come ashore, South Florida. See this? It's over the larger Bahama Island now, and then we'll step it forward. Timestamp bottom right, 25th, it's ashore. Still the 25th, it's possibly reaching back out into the Gulf with one leg on, again, timestamp 25th. 26th. The storm here is still not come ashore. The front storm, Tropical Depression 14. If it holds that path. Now, that would be the best scenario to keep them separated so two areas don't get slammed at the same time. But we'll just play it forward and pull him across the Carolinas back out into the Atlantic, as many of these storms do. A lot of times that can bring a lot of flooding, guys. You know that. Some tornadoes and things like that, especially with a storm that has had this long to travel and that strengthens before it comes ashore in Florida. It's really the best case scenario. If it comes across into the Gulf, it can still devastate Florida by coming back into the Panhandle. We've seen it before. Now, guys, this is a look at August tropical cyclones going back over time. Now, who can forget Katrina 2005, this time of the year, the last week in August? Andrew, Donna, 1893. Hurricane Camille, devastating in 1969. It changed the Mississippi Gulf Coast almost as much as Katrina did. Harvey, 2017. Carol, 1954. Hurricane Connie, 55. Hurricane Irene in 2011. The Great Colonial Hurricane goes on back in history. 1812, Louisiana hurricane, Hurricane Alicia, 83, Hurricane Dennis, 2005, the 1893 New York hurricane, here in 1831 in Barbados, Hurricane Belle in 76, Tropical Storm Carrie, 72, on and on, guys, Hurricane David, Hurricane Fran in 96. This is the time they get rough, and you can go on and look at through this, just type in August hurricanes or tropical cyclones. But guys, it's that time of the year, and with grand solar minimum, the surface is a little extra hot, and it's got to release that heat somewhere. So keep your hats on, keep your heads up, and batten down the hatches. Be safe.